hopefully I can get it all set up and running nicely. I want to talk about the costs of living and the consideration of growing your own food. Now, if you're not doing that already, then I reckon you might need to start thinking about it, even if you've got just a little space. Because, look, I went into the grocery store again and things are just going up, 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 and up, and up, and up. And putting diesel in my car, the old trusty ute, up, 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 and up, and up. And I'm worried about how sustainable this all may be. Now, I've been following economists for about the last 10 years. I've been really interested in business and been following economists and things like that, and following along this line of this crash that they're talking about been coming for a long time, right? G'day, Billy. Good to see you, mate. So I have got I wouldn't, I'm not an economist by far, right? But I do know a lot about growing food and growing stuff in small spaces. G'day, Deborah. And how you can get things up and going quickly. Now, many people, I'm really concerned about this because a lot of people don't have enough money in their savings now because they're just so stuck into debt, and with the rising interest rates and things like that, I think that's going to get even harder. So one way to save money is we need to drop our costs down. Now, we can do that in many different ways by looking at our budgets and different things, dropping things off, maybe buying less cups of coffee at the shop and purchasing different foods and looking at ways to create different meals, growing foods to complement meals. Like I heard in the States at the moment, my friend Mike Van Doozy from that channel, I heard him say in a recent video, well, I think it just come out this morning, he's talking about plastics in hydroponics. Hydroponics is one way we can grow food really fast. He said it's really hot there at the moment, so a lot of people don't want to grow, but you could consider growing things like basil and things like that, heat-loving plants that grow quick, and making a lot of sort of different types of basil meals. They can go anything from stir fries, Asian stir fries, to making pestos, pastas, all that type of stuff. We have another really heat-loving plant, cherry tomatoes and garlic chives. So you've got those three of them together. They go in a wide array of meals. And you could look at some Asian greens and things like that that grow also really well in the heat, like kangkong, which I've got a video on that channel, on my channel, about that. Now, the productions here, we're getting there. We're slowly getting through as I'm building out this place. And look, okay, mate. But the Marty's Garden channel's been going backwards for quite some time. It hasn't had the growth rates that it used to have. So, occasionally I have wondered about sort of letting it go and doing other things because I can make more money elsewhere, and with the rise of costs and stuff. But moving on to this new place, being blessed by the Lord and having a cheaper way of living, and looking at getting more, self-sustainable here myself, I thought I've got to do my best to share this while I can, because it just may help with a lot of people's lives and take a bit of the pressure away, the stress away. Now, a lot of people don't know, like younger millennials and things like that, never really heard much about the Great Depression, right? Well, I'm in my mid-50s now, so my parents were brought up by people that went through the Great Depression. So my grandfather and my grandparents, they passed away a long time ago. I was the youngest in the family, so but my grandfather, he had his own chickens, he grew his own food, he was a very good gardener, so they tell me. I don't remember a lot about it, but they always had this thing, eat everything on your plate. And so that was passed down to their generation and passed down to mine, and slowly fading out sort of now, because they didn't know when the next lot of food was coming through, and it wasn't easy to get food, right? And we look back in history and go, oh, is this going to be a repeat process of this? No one really knows, because we haven't been through this giant type of bubble that we have before. And so one of the reasons why I feel I've been blessed with this place is so I can actually pass on this knowledge to help other people fight through this next battle that's going. You might have a mortgage or something like that, or you're just going to have trouble paying the rent, or so there's so many issues going on. I was worried about being homeless for quite some time if the lease finished up and someone wanted to pay a higher rent and all this type of stuff. In Australia here, it's pretty dire in many cases, right? And a lot of stress and a lot of pressures. But if we can cut our costs and look at growing our own food, we can actually do this. But we've got to be really careful about how we go about it, because when we just run out and buy lots of products, right, we actually sometimes can spend more at the very beginning and possibly too much. So one of the things I've been doing at my place here is I've been buying a cheap type of compost. Now, because I don't have my own compost anymore, I moved away from that compost business, left it all behind. I've got to rebuild it all again. So I'm buying these 25-litre bags for about $4. And I've got an organic powder mix, which is sort of like it's got some blood and bones, some potassium, nitrogen, things like that. It's a good NPK, but it's organic and it's really quite cheap. And it goes back to sort of like some of the old ways organically of growing food and steering away from chemical fertilizers. And when you get that sort of that complete mix, you can just mix it through a cheap bag of compost, and you're going pretty quick. You got 25 litres for about $4.50, something along those lines, and you can fill up a big pot. So like a 25-litre pot. Put a fruit tree in it, grow a nice big tomato in a 25-litre pot. Or you can do what I'm doing and cover the top of a bale, a straw bale, and put it over the top and start using the bales, which cost me $13. So that the large bale with 2 bags of compost on top cost me around about, so looking at say $9 to $21 to build a raised garden bed. So that's not too bad. But the fact is that the garden bed that's made out of a bale, right, and that you're just growing on top is actually breaking down and creating better soils down below and building up the soil structure. And so you're planting more on top in that little space. Think of it like a square garden, a 1 meter garden sort of thing, a block that you grow into. Instead of pulling the plants out, when you finish, you're cutting the roots off and letting those roots break down, and you're building a topsoil. So you're doing a type of lasagna bedding and building and planting the sides and things like that. So and all you're doing is just top dressing all the time. You can use cow manure or more composts, things like that, and just build on top of it and keep planting it. It's a really cheap way to go. And then you've got this garden bed sort of at the end, or you've built up some soil where you can later plant a fruit tree, or put some papayas in, or plant it again and again and again, as long as you keep feeding the top. So you're feeding the soil, not the plants at the end. And that's a really cheap way to grow food. You only have to buy the seed then and just start sprinkling it on, and it comes up through, and you just succession planting and just planting sort of in the season into that space. Now it's very cold here where I am, so I've just got some peas in there, and I put some different types of lettuces, shallow rooting ones. Now peas get a long root, but they'll go down and put their nodes into there and drop roots in the system, and then I'll get a bit of food, I'll cut them off, and it gets the system going. But I will get some peas from that, and the little punnet of peas cost me, I think, $3 or something. So along those lines, and I'll get more than $3 worth of peas probably out of there. I could get anywhere from, well, we'll see. I don't want to predict how many I'm going to get yet, as long as the chickens don't get to them first, because we haven't built a pen around the outside of our chook tractor yet. But starting this channel right from a very long time ago and moving it through, it hasn't really worked so well with the YouTube algorithms and different things, because there's so much variation of content, and people subscribe for something, I'm producing something else, and then they don't watch it, and so it doesn't bring this repeat process. And so the channel isn't really sustainable if you're looking at it from a business point of view. But to bring value into people's lives, it's definitely 100% sustainable in that way. The only thing is it actually benefits you more than it does me. But I really believe in giving, and I also believe in being thankful. And so, thankfulness in giving is a very, very powerful thing. It's what can drive you and change you in a second as soon as you start being thankful and grateful. And when you give, you're giving yourself. It empowers you in a way that can be really, I don't know. It's a God-given thing. I think it's hard to put it into words. And so for the time being, I'll do my best to produce this content. And in a little while, we'll take some comments and things like that. I'm just on my phone, so as they pop up, they sort of disappear. And we can have a bit of a chat about it, because I know it's concerning many, many of you. Some of you just come here to watch to see me, and I really appreciate that. And but hopefully I'm still giving some value into your lives. There's lots of worm farming content on here on this channel, so people can go in now and pick that to pieces, start making their own free fertilizers and things like that, and go in and grab videos about microgreens, start growing microgreens, things like winter tomatoes. All these things are on this channel already, so I'm going to try not to repeat myself too much. Some people don't like being sent back to old content, but as we're moving forward, the story really here is about how I'm going to be trying to save money myself and bring an income in. I've still got to work out a little way of turning a lot of this stuff into produce, into a possible income as well, if it comes to that. But I want to inspire you to look at different ways and think out of the box for growing food at home and cutting your costs down, and looking at ways you systemize things. This is going to be really important going into this new price war of the war pushing gasoline up. So that means that like fertilizers are going up as well. So we need to look at ways to make our own fertilizers, whether it be at home or also in a larger scale. Now, I know my friend Pepe Fassos is watching this, and he is a farmer. He's got 560 farms, and he's going to have to be looking at ways of bringing down his costs as well. And so he doesn't have to raise his costs out of the consumer too much, and also get the product, a good quality product out there. So it is very tricky, and I think maybe Pepe's going to look at building some big worm farm systems. We'll see in the future if he sort of goes with that. I reckon he may, and if he does, we'll put it down here in the content, I would say. But you can. So we're looking at scale. You only need maybe say one or two small worm farms and a compost bin, and you're pretty much underway to be able to create a lot of your own fertilizers and things, and start using and managing your own waste on site. I've always been an advocate for that, and to be honest, it's been a part of the thing that sort of cheers, mate. It's been a part of the thing that sort of killed this channel in a bit, because it doesn't have that sexy viewership of like, I can grow 500 potatoes and I can show you how to do it now in massive volume in 5 steps, that type of thing, which is cool. A lot of people like that stuff, but I don't know if it solves the issue of what we need to look at into the future to change our lives in a way. There's this big shift going. It's going to be absolutely amazing, but scary at the same time. And the mindset's going to be changing as well. We're going to shift back using technology to become more self-sufficient. And we got more technology to do it now. But what I want to bring forward is for you to think about not getting too overwhelmed with this technology and things like that, but look back at simplifying things, at systems that worked in the past, and design them and make them better for now. Like it's like when you go in and when you buy a business. So, for example, someone goes in and buys an airline. They buy an airline because it works. It already, maybe not the current times, but it will again, um, because they know that model's there. People are going to buy tickets. People are going to want to fly. So how do I differentiate? How do I make it better than my competitor? So we're not looking at a competitive sense. We're looking at how do we get something that's already working, improve it a little bit to make it better, and systemize it. So if we're going to be growing food consistently to save money, we need to systemize things, right? So, for example, if we're going to be growing microgreens, we need to systemize it in a way where the expenditure is not too much, right? So we'd start off with a nice big bag of seed. You don't want to buy small amounts; it's just too expensive. We need to find a big volume. One of the ones that we eat all the time, like my one's red Sango radish, and Peppy gave me a big bag of it the other day, so I'm going to be growing a bit of that for a while because I'm nearly out of seed. So thanks, brother, for that, and some other seed as well that's mixed in with what I've got. And I will probably have to set up a corner where I will be growing some of my own seed, and collecting it and looking at the way I can actually keep growing and saving money. Now, the one thing about seed and saving seeds is it just takes a lot of time, right? And so you have to look at new ways of maybe going, okay, well, I'm not going to watch Netflix tonight. We're going to all get together. We're going to collect a whole lot of the seed from our rocket or a Sango radish, and we'll sit together. We'll put it on. We'll put the TV on, but and maybe watch a bit of Netflix at the same time while we're sorting our seed out. And we create some type of system where it's easy to pick and harvest the seed. So we say, for example, we're growing the plants, right? We might save half a dozen of them to go seed somewhere. We put them into pots. They're going to be our seed raisers. We might do more than that, depending on how much you need and want. Some plants produce more seeds than others, like a regular rocket produces a ton of seed. Basil produces a ton of seed. So look at these plants that are they grow a lot of seed. They're easy to collect the seed from, and that you can grow over and over and over again. Like one basil plant, man, you can get a lot of seed from it, right? So you might only need a certain amount, and then you can grow it on and on again. Now, I really love basil for the reason that it produces a lot of seed. It produces a lot of food. It's really tolerant in the heat. It can handle a little bit of cold, and it can handle a lot of water if you're getting floods and things like that. And it's a tough plant. And if you feed it accordingly, it produces a ton of food with a lot of flavor. And then you can actually get basil. You've got oats, so you plant more than you need, and then you sell some of that basil or give some of it away. And you've got this extra volume of more than what you require. See, in nature, you plant one seed, you get 1,000 back. So look at it in that perspective. You plant one seed, you get 1,000 seeds back, and all this food. So you want to systemize things where you can keep on going and keep your expense down, and look at it and go, okay, well, I've got to put my time into there to do that. Maybe it's cheaper to buy a $2 bag of basil seed, but you got to look at it again. Is the basil seed treated? Is it good quality seed? Is it, like if it's treated in some stuff, it could actually like poison some of the environment around you and things like that. So I really recommend that we sort of like start looking at things in different ways and systemize it. So we might have some microgreens going out twice a week, some baby leaf we're planting once or twice a week, and we're harvesting from that quite often. We're planting our fruit trees and things, getting them ready and understanding that it's going to be a few years before they actually start producing, but we take care of them, get them going, because once they are going, they produce every year. Some fruit trees will produce, like papaya, if you live in a warm enough area, it will produce right through for many months, 3 months. A lot of fruit trees will produce for 3 months. So we sort of look at that and go, okay, well, let's go back to the old school way of thinking. As I was saying, it's the old school way of thinking, things that have already done and worked, and making them a little bit better. And that way we can actually then systemize it to have the food. And the part of the system is actually understanding what we're going to be putting on our plates, right? So our menus, when we're planting these things and organising, what are we going to make? Like when I'm planting basil, I'm thinking, okay, well, I'm going to be making pad kapow. That's one of my favourite Asian stir fries that I use to make. I'm going to be making, I'll probably make a pesto, or be making all different types of meals with it. Based on sort of like everything from sort of Asian through to Italian, and I'll pick which meals that I want to make with it. My daughter loves eating it, and I usually have about 3 or 4 different types of basils going. So the lemon, I've got some Thai holy, and then sometimes I do cinnamon, and then I have like your basic sweet Genovese, which is the main one that I like to grow. So think of it along those lines. And like cherry tomatoes are amazing because they just produce quite prolifically, and you can get the different varieties that some produce right through the whole year, and then others produce just all at once. And I recommend you have a few 2 or 3 different varieties of cherry tomatoes going, and then that mixes with the basil straight away. So another one is like parsley. Now I've brought this up quite a lot of times. The combination of parsley, garlic chives, all the different garlics, cherry tomatoes, and the basils. You've just got an ultimate combination of meals there, and they all grow together really well. They're all companions. So they protect each other in the garden away from pests and disease, and improve flavour. And not only do they improve flavour on your plate, but they improve flavour when they're grown together as well. So those combinations are really good. So look at combinations of food that you grow together, generally are companions together. So you systemize it and go, okay, well, I'm planting my tomatoes off into the sun there. That the parsley will be a little bit shaded by those, and I'll put some basil on the side to stop the pests from coming through. And when I go down, I'll harvest. So this is your system again. I'll harvest the basil, I'll harvest the cherry tomatoes, and I'll harvest some garlic chives, and I'll grow a bit of parsley on a big basket. You've got there's a meal there. All you need is some pasta, a bit of mince, something along those lines. If you're vegetarian, you might use some tofu or something, and boom, man, you've got that's a meal. It's a big saver. All you need really then is your pasta. You could even use the cherry tomatoes and the basil and make a sauce as well. So I really want you to think about how you systemize things. If you're going in a bigger scale, how you systemize it again to save time. Because when you don't systemize and everything becomes a bit of a mess and everything, you just go, that's not time efficient. I'm better off buying the stuff which is costing you a lot of money. And then you sort of go backwards, if that makes sense, what I'm talking about. So I just want to inspire you to think about the different ways you can do that. Now, you can start in pots like I am. I've got everything going in pots and the bales now, and starting right again from scratch. We've done 2 harvests so far. I've even given a little bit to my neighbour next door, and she's stoked. We've got the 4 eggs from the chicken so far. I looked in there. There's number 5 in the coop today, and we'll probably be getting more. Chickens were a big cost outlay so far. We've paid $125 for 5 chickens, and $150 for the coop, and another $30 or $40 for food and trays and things like that. So we've done over $300 worth of stuff, but I'm going to have eggs for quite a long time, and they run around, they clean up the weeds and things and fertilize the ground, and they're working. So every day they're producing and doing something. So I feel they're a good addition. They're an expensive addition, there's no doubt about that at the start, but over time I feel that they will actually be really cool. And my daughter's going out every day and letting them out, Karen. So it's the entertainment value there as well, and learning about how to take care of these animals. And she sees what they're doing. I'm passing this on into my generation of how to actually live more self-sufficiently. And so she's getting that education at the same time. And when we teach our kids how to systemize things, they come across problems and they solve them much easier. And then they don't have to face the things that we face, and they say, I already saw Dad do that. I ain't going to do that again. You know what I mean? I'm smarter than that. You want them to think like this, right? And we need to think like that too by observing others and seeing what they're doing and go, oh man, that's doing like that. I don't think that's the right way. I think I can do that a little bit better, change it like this. And so, yeah, I feel that in these current times, we really need to start looking at how we're going to be growing more food at home and what is sort of like suitable in your climate, what's suitable at the time of growing, and how we can actually create these little systems. And one of the systems is actually just having it very close to your back doorstep, so you don't have to go out too far, or even if you've got a good windowsill, growing some herbs on a window and having access to them continually, even under a little light or something, a little LED light that's not too expensive. They don't work too bad these days as well. So there's lots of ways to systemize this, but I think we really need to look at keeping our costs down while we're doing it. So that's why I'm always been promoting the composting and the worm farming, even though I said it's really sort of like it hasn't done this channel any favors. That's actually the honest truth. But because the audience is so slow and it's the algorithm moving through the channel has just shown that it's been going backwards, and so it shares to my videos to less and less people. And so you know, I've gone from reaching 20s of thousands to just hundreds now. So we'll see how things go. But you know, as I said, the main reason we're doing this, and the main reason I'm sitting here in front of this camera now, is to pass on this information and to you know, share my knowledge that I've built over many years from trial and error, so you don't make the same mistakes that I made, and you can just go in and get a better results. So what we're going to do now is we'll keep talking about this conversation, but I think we'll go in to have some comments and things and some questions about growing your own food at home and saving money. You know, we can look at seeds, we can look at fertilizers, we can look at composting, we can look at different plants, you know, seasonal planting, systemized things, anything that you are interested in, how I can possibly help you get a better result. I'm really interested in pushing that forward. As I said, I really believe in, you know, that Thanksgiving, being thankful for everything. I'm thankful for this place I live in. So it's time for me to give out a little bit more as well. And, you know, I'm thankful I've got some more hours at my job. So, because I'm just, you know, I'm pretty blessed at the moment. Even though I don't have much, I have a lot. You know what I mean? So let's get into it. Let's fire away some questions, and in between those, I will keep on chatting to you guys and hopefully inspire you some more. While I'm waiting for the first question to come along, I want to talk about efficiency of water, right? This is something that we need to be very careful of, even though we've got too much of it here in Australia at the moment. We are a land of flood and drought, and things can change and flip on us quite quickly. And so I'm a big fan of, if you're growing in pots, is the water well pots. So the pots that contain the water down below, because if we go away for a few days, we forget the water, they sump up from down below. Now we can make our own if you're very good at this DIY stuff. You can look at so many options on YouTube to teach you how to do that. You just need a little tank down below, or wicking systems. How I used to make them years ago was a big 44-gallon bucket, and I would shove some like foam boxes down below underneath to hold a height, and I would cut a piece of plastic. I'd drill a whole lot of holes in the plastic, and I would create a wick. So I'd get an old towel, and I'd fold the towel so there was a width in the wick going across and then down into the water, and the water would come up, wet the wick, and then it would keep the water, the thing moist, and it worked great actually. And so that was the first ones that I ever built, and they worked so well that I could build these big tanks in them, and I wouldn't have to water some plants for like a week. Just absolutely amazing. So, you know, if you're into DIY stuff, you can find those plastic pots just lying around. You can use those. So we've got our first comment. So let's Let's have a look at these. Hopefully I can get this this phone doing thing. I've been using chicken litter with pine shavings. When I clean the pen to make no-till garden, I heard you can use pine shavings to cover the garden with to keep them from having to water as often. Yeah, you can. Just be aware it could be a little bit acidic, pine shavings. But you basically your chicken manure is alkaline, so it might balance off a bit. So, I would check on the pH on that. Other than that, you might want to change maybe the shavings around, but check the pH before you do that, because sometimes things balance back, and you could be totally fine. It's okay if it's a little bit acidic. I would love to collect seeds. We use a lot of basil. I've always struggled to grow parsley. Okay, so yeah, I think it's a really fun thing to do. I used to think of it as sort of a bit boring, and I'd go, this is a bit tedious, just to be honest with you. But when you, at the end of it, once you've got this like big bag of seed, it's just absolutely awesome. So then you got to learn how to store it properly. That's the thing with the seed. You need to store it in a nice cool spot and try and keep any humidity out of it for molds and things like that. Trying to use it again the next season if you can. Growing parsley, it's very seasonal. You need a really good compost to grow parsley in. I find it grows really well in like a semi-shaded area in the hotter months, and then like morning sun, where I am in the subtropics, in the wintertime works really well for me. And I mound parsley, I find likes growing in mound, likes a lot of air in the roots. So I find that works for me. So yeah, maybe consider that, and in the summertime grow it under the shade underneath certain plants. Okay, let's keep going with these comments here, and you might see my finger up here from time to time, just fixing these up. And mononeuron, teaching your children to grow food is a fundamental survival. No electricity, no technology. I didn't have enough time to do that then. I've got to learn how to hold this up a bit longer, these chats. I don't know why it's disappearing. And it says, so much wasted time. So much wasted time trying to innovate. Learn your chemistry and biology. Great comment. Deborah Jane, thanks, Marty. You're very, very welcome. So yeah, if you've got any questions, feel free to fire away. Remember, no questions are stupid, right? It's like we're all at a certain element now, not element, but we're all at a certain time path now, growing lives. And many of us are just starting from the beginning. We need to ask those beginning questions, right? So remember, we all started somewhere, and and nothing is regarded as stupid. So fire away if you've got something, and don't worry about the audience. Just ask that question, because I'm here to help you, and we are firing away this morning here at Marty's Garden, just on my little mobile phone. I'm building my first house, and I'm using your videos for ideas. Keep up the great content. You're welcome, mate, and thank you for watching. I appreciate it. I know that there's quite a few out there that do follow the way I do things and do use similar methods, and I won't teach something that doesn't work or I feel that I'm testing and trialing. It's something that generally I'm doing, that I've done over and over many times, and I very rarely share those tests and trials on my channel because they're hard to film and they're hard to put in production. You've got to stop and start a lot and things like that, and so they're not as easy to do. And so once they're ready and they're done and they're working, they're productive, then I sort of share them then, and hopefully that is helping you guys. I'd be keeping an eye on the bales when they're coming up in the future. If you want to build soils and you've got an option to get hold of straw bales or pea bales or something like that locally. If not, just follow other ways that we're doing it here. I'm doing it here. Okay, so any questions, I am happy to answer. And we've got, are you going to build a big worm farm, from Chris Shorts? So I've got the next video that's coming out I'll show you where the worm farm area is. I've got this big sort of, quite a big space, and starting it off from scratch. My worms in the tiered farm, I'll show them as well. Doing really great. So yeah, I am going to be building something out, and I want to cut my costs and make my own fertilizers and composts and things like that. But yeah, it's a very slow process. What do you do with a garden to be flood proof? This is a really, Michael from O'Donnell's homestead. You've thrown in a real doozy there, mate. I would say this is a very difficult question because it depends on how deep the flood's going to be at that place. But generally overall, like Australia that hasn't had places that haven't been flooded, their backyards are just really wet. They've got 2 inches or even, like 6 inches of water over the top because we've had so much rain in the last few years. We need to, from a permaculture point of view, we build swales, right? So swales direct water away. But at the same time, you've got to be really careful not to direct too much water away. The whole thing with good organic gardening is we want to capture water into our soil profile. So we're building soils all the time. And a good soil profile actually drains away really well. And so it won't, like my backyard gets muddy at the moment because it's full of clay and it doesn't drain away well. But once you build soil with a lot of organic matter, it drains away. And so we want to build it up, and we want to store the water when it falls, but we also need it to flow. So you need to have good drainage in the soils. It's very important. And if you have the good drainage, the only way it's going to really flood is if it sits and it can't flow anywhere. And so that's when we have our overflow areas where we have our swales. So look into the way they build swales, and you can then direct water to another place. And what you want to do is you want to direct the water with the permaculture swale to a boggy area where you grow these plants that love a lot of water, right? And then you put the trees around the outside that love a lot of water as well. And that'll soak up and drink up and transpire, and it will create these little mini ecosystems of humid pockets and things like that. It brings more birds in, it brings more frogs in. So we've got to think about, we don't want to just get rid of that water if we can. It could be a little tiny dam, it could be, something where we just create a bit of a bog marsh sort of area, things like that. So we need water. We need water to go into the subsoil. It needs to stay there. But when we get overflow of it, it needs to move away through the subsoil and out. And that's what little springs and things are in nature, right? Where the water's dropped in areas, it's naturally swaled somewhere and pops out of a wall or a cliff or something. Not always, but a lot of springs are like that. So yeah, great question, mate. And hopefully I've helped with that. Yeah, very cool stuff. Okay, let's have a look. Hopefully I don't miss any of your questions here. Billy May, have you read any regenerative soil books? I have one. It's meant to be like the best composting book out. I read the first 2 pages and it said we were ruining our earth, and it scared me. So look, I've been into soil regeneration and all that type of thing since I finished college. So yeah, reading books, watching videos, studying how people are doing things, working on it myself. And it is quite sad, but we need to look at our own little space, right? So sometimes when we're not empowered, we feel like we lose control of what's going around us. So we need to empower our little space, think locally. And when we think locally, we start thinking globally. So we improve. This is one thing I've always taught, is work on your space, improve your space. And then when we do that collectively, we're building something really pretty amazing. So, and that way we don't get overly too stressed about these things. Some things are out of our hands. Like an example was, I used to, when I was younger, I'd go to these farms and things, and I'd talk to these farmers and go, why are you still doing farming like this? This is ancient. It's killing your land. It's not profitable anymore. You're destroying your soils. Within 5 or 10 years, your soils are going to be stuffed, like aren't you looking at how you're going to regenerate this and turn this into a better farm long term? They're just looking at the money right there and then. And sometimes they have to because they're just going to pay the bill, but the long term thing isn't there. So regenerative farming is the future. I always said that. I always agreed with that, and it's just the way that we need to go. But yeah, work on your space and then go from there. So let's have a look here. I would use wood chips to hold water. Yeah, wood chips such as Back to Eden garden method. That works really great. It is a very good method, but you do need a lot of rain for that to work well. You need, and he says that in the video as well. Yeah, YouTube wine caps. I don't know what that means. You scatter the spawn through wood chips. Okay, gotcha. I didn't realise that type of gardening I was into was regenerative garden. Just didn't know what it was called. Now I've learned about it and I need some chickens here too. You can build your place in a regenerative space. That's what I'm doing here. I'm regenerating this space. I've got a boggy clay land because I've just had a whole lot of rain, so I know what the wet spots are now. I've got to work out ways of fixing this all up. But at the same time, I want to regenerate it into a better space and introduce more birds, get the frogs in, get the wildlife in. And I said to my daughter Karen, I said, you watch, now we've got the chickens and we're getting some plants in here, more birds. There wasn't many birds in my yard the first week. And now that we've got the chickens, they're coming down because they're like the chickens, they push the food around out the side and little bits of food go out the side of the pen and things like that. And they run around the yard and they're scratching up the yard and they're bringing up other insects and things like that. So the magpies started turning up. We had these this mad bird that I've never seen before, a whole pack of them come in. We've got these Australian noisy miners, they're hanging around a bit more. And so it's already starting to happen. We're in this regeneration process and the animals, we use them to work for us, right? Because we need that biodiversity in the garden. And biodiversity is what keeps you from having to use all these chemicals and sprays and all these different nasties and things like that, and become more self-sufficient in a way where we keep our costs right down. But you got to look at ways again. It's still got to be systemised. Now, where a lot of permaculturists in the beginning made a lot of mistakes in small gardens, and including myself, we made these sort of, they're not messy gardens, but we're trying to imitate these bush spaces. And certain plants would get out of control and take over more than others and things like that. Now, a lot of permaculturists have gone back to actually growing like I did at the beginning until I sort of like pushed off into another direction a little bit too much. But in the beginning, I grew these long rows and then I would companion plant in between around, and I would come through. So systemized companion planting where I could actually still harvest quite quickly. And now they're going back to that in these small spaces. They're realizing that the other ways weren't manageable and that they actually need to do it like this. So as I was saying before, we look at the old ways of doing things that worked and then improve on them and continually make them better. So if you're growing, an example, a garden row, so we're getting back to the gardening here of being self-sufficient and saving money, we would plant a tomato plant, a basil plant, another type of plant, and then something else. Then we might go a tomato or basil again, and then something else and something else. And so we're not monocropping, and we're creating this sort of ecology of, not ecology, but a regenerative process. And then the next season we might put some beans and peas and different things in and build the nitrogen back up in the soil and just cut them off at the base. Don't dig them out, cut them off at the base, compost the plant, eat the pods again. And then we might, like example, I would come along in some spots and I'd just plonk a bale there and just start planting into the bale again and build that spot up again, and different things like that. Like you can get 4 bales and you can make a square box and you can pour your worms in there and a whole lot of compost, and you've got a compost worm farm, and you plant all around the outside of your bales, and the worms are moving out into the thing, and then when that's finished, you just plant a fruit tree in it. So you've created this system where everything's working for you and you don't have to go through and digging all the time and changing things and stirring up the biology, you know, like you're building up this system. And so as you're building, you're looking at, okay, so I've built that now. I don't want to come back and have to so much grow on that again if I've got the right space. I'm going to put a fruit tree there. It's going to fruit every year. All I've got to do is compost and throw some wood chips down and a little bit of fertilizer and feed this tree, and it will produce food for me from year on. And then we just move on to the next spot and build a garden there. Same sort of thing, plonk some stuff on it, build some gardens, not digging, and then eventually plant another another fruit tree or something like that, depending on the space that we've got, right? We've got to be real with it, but we can do that in a way. If we're only planting 4 fruit trees, that is a good way to do something, because you're taking advantage of that space and creating a system to build the soil, grow lots of plants, an edible garden, and then eventually that space will become something that's more permanent. We move on. So hopefully I'm not getting too far off track there. Let's get back to some questions here, because I don't want to miss too many. If I have missed any, please excuse me. Why do birds come? So the birds come because they want to, they're naturalists, right? They live in nature and they've got to have food around. So if you're producing habitat and food, the birds will come. They've got to have the habitat and they've got to have the food, and then they will come. And generally the food is involved in the habitat. So just building habitat will create more food. Yeah, let's go. Too much scattered feed for you're getting too many visitors. Oh no, I like the visitors coming in, and it's just scraps and things that they kick out. I have birds hanging around my chickens. A bowerbird has set up his bower in the backyard. That is so awesome. I love those birds, especially when they're really young. They look like, they're just the colours, just amazing. Okay, so let's keep firing away here. Making sure I haven't missed anything. So the chickens are really quite funny in a way of how they, they're settling in at the place. They're still a bit sort of flighty at the moment, a couple of them. Got one called Flighty, and he's just super panic merchant. So if he panics, all the other birds can panic at the same time. But as they're building and working in this backyard, and we're putting systems together, they're going to be a part of this whole little space where they're regenerating it. So they're working on. We've moved them into another grass spot at the moment. They're putting their droppings in there, and then before it gets sort of too smelly or whatever, I'll sort of move it along again, and I'll get the next fresh grass. We've already started building one garden where I've been throwing down sort of some bale grass and things like that underneath, so they're popping into that, and then that's covered that space, and we've sort of left that there. So they've already already doing quite well. I may move them down the backyard a bit more, where I'm pretty sure I'm going to put the fruit trees now. And then they're a bit far down. We've got to do some repairs on for the foxes and things like that. So a little bit concerned about that. But they definitely do play a big role in the regenerative part of it. And, in the long run, they're going to save me a lot of money, even though it's been quite a big expense coming out. So if we get back to the beginning of the basics of what we're talking about, is really the saving of the money. So on any income, it's going to be a bit of a while. Let's say if we're making millions, we're not going to be too bothered, are we? But most of us are just on low to mid-range incomes, and unfortunately the middle class is getting smaller and shrinking, and so everyone's looking at ways that they can start saving money, and growing your own is definitely one of those ways to do it. And at the moment we're in a certain season, so if you can let me know where you are, you can just possibly let me know in the community here what you're growing or considering growing, or thinking about growing into the future. And you may have some questions on that, or how you can make systemize your space a little bit more. I'd be happy to answer any of those questions if we can. I know we've been going for about 50 minutes. Generally, we run for about an hour on these live shows, so happy to go a little bit longer yet and see if I can help you. I'm sure I've inspired you with some ideas and some concepts to move forward and to start saving some money there. We need to just look at all the ways we can cut costs around in the garden without falling into this whole marketing thing. So when you go into the shops and you're buying stuff, try not to look at all the different, everything that's selling you this and selling you that. Just, look at getting that like a good powdered organic fertilizer, good good NPK, and sort of go from there, and then start looking at adding minerals to your garden as well. So follow the systems of building the soils up, like feeding the soils. If you're going into the sort of hydroponic stuff and things like that, you can do it quite cheaply. Look at Mike Van Doozy, his channel. He will help you quite a lot with doing very cheap hydroponic gardening. That's what he's all about. And he's a great guy, really great guy. If you're going more into larger scale growing of production of food, I'm pretty sure Pepe Fasos will have some more videos coming out, and he will also, great Aussie guy, not living too far away from me, and a whole lot of videos there on the channel too. So yeah, really, really cool. We've just got a super chat from Alberto D. Thank you very much, mate. I really appreciate it, and heart goes out to you, brother, for that. I really do appreciate it. I'm going to read the question once we can get that up there. Marty, I would like to grow fruit trees on large containers. Reason why, in case I have to relocate. I wonder if it's possible. I'm from Southern California. It is very, very possible. And I'd like to give you some advice on that, Alberto. Now, I've got my fruit trees that I've just started again in grow bags. So if you can find some grow bags at the start for, say, just, trees that you would normally buy from the nursery, things like that, they've just been grafted. They might be 1 year old, maybe a little bit older if you're lucky. And generally you'll find that they're in a smaller, long, narrow pot. And when you open them up, they've sort of spiraled around like that. And what we want to do is we want the roots to grow out and disperse out. And so grow bags will do that, because as the roots come into the side, it won't spiral, it'll split and produce more fibrous roots. And then we get more feeder roots, see? And then the more feeder roots that we have, the more nutrition the plant can take up. So in a pot, we're doing things a little bit differently. We're not sort of like building soil profiles. We've got to feed the plant as well as try and keep some type of biology and nutrition alive in the pot. Now, what we want to do then is, so once they sort of start getting to a good size, they can grow quite big in grow bags, and you can get grow bags to all different sizes. Now, if you want to go DIY way, what you can do is you can look at these businesses that are selling these big pots. They've got big holes in them, and they like pop out like a big bit of plastic rod that comes out like that. And so the roots come out into these rods, and they sort of stick out the side of the pots, and they grow these big. People grow orchards in these pots, right? Because they have your thing. They don't have the good soils, and they want to grow these trees. So you can look at growing the dwarf species. So all the citrus have the dwarf rootstock. It's a trifoliata, I think, type of rootstock, but it'll always say it on the label. And so lots of those you can get as dwarf fruit trees, and you can grow them in pots. So I would look at those. And then, you can look at the DIY ones. So you've just got to think of like how an airbag works. So you need to create more holes around the outside of the container, so the air's going into the container and the pot, that the roots aren't wrapping, that they're actually splitting out, becoming more fibrous and producing more. So flying dragon rootstock. Yeah, thanks, mate. Awesome. It's an awesome community, isn't it? So look at those, and they are your best options. The dwarf fruit trees, I would say. You can also look at, this cool climate. So we'll just get him back up here. He has a really cool channel, cool climate, tropical fruits, right? And he's getting the answer, flying dragon rootstock. So check out our friend's channel here, another Aussie, and I'm sure he'll probably be able to help you as well with some questions that you may have, because he does fruit trees, right? And so, yeah, I'll have a great, some good answers for you if he's happy to do that. And I'm sure that there'll be plenty of videos on the channel talking about if maybe you guys have a bit of a chat, connect up there and see what you can do. But yeah, so think about a lot of air going into the side of the pots and how you can do that, and without the pots spiraling and becoming root bound. And consider also having some fruit trees are really heavy feeders. So, you have fertilization program. You need to be able to liquid feed these pots a bit more often than you would, say, something else in the ground. And you need to be able to get enough water to them as well. So, pots, if you're a DIY guy that holds some type of water well or some type of watering system for them, so you're not hand watering every day or whatever. But I do recommend that you still do some hand watering, just for the fact that it gives you a chance to look at the plants, go over, see if there's any problems, any pests hanging around, maybe any nutrient deficiencies, things like that, because you can come up with more nutrient deficiencies in containers, and work on a really good system. Like I would have some worm farms in and be collecting the worm juice. Plenty of videos here on that. And that will save you a lot of money as well into the long period. So look at making your own fertilizers. You grow comfrey as well to produce your own fertilizer, things like that. You can actually just collect weeds and stuff like that, make your own fertilizers and things. So look at that, and look at the times of years and the plants are fruiting and things, and you'll be fine. It's not a huge, massive science. It's just a matter of mostly getting the air to the roots in the pots, and just having a good feeding program for the plants, and you'll be fine. And keep an eye on the channel here. I'm doing some fruit trees and stuff like that as well. And we'll just go back here. Many in pots, because I need to move when cold. So see, there you go, mate. There we go. Cool climate. Cool climate for tropical fruit trees. Sure, he's got some answers for you there on the channel. So please feel free to fire away any more questions that you have. I'm doing my very best to help you grow the food that you can, so you can save money. And I guess this is the time where you go, hey, ask an expert, because generally, I charge, $50 an hour to go out to actually go to your place. So, it's very cheap. And thank you for any super chats that have come about as well. Have I missed a super chat somewhere? Because it says 1463. Maybe that's the Aussie, because I've got 10 US. Thank you again, Alberto, for the super chat. I really appreciate it, mate. And look at that, you got a great answer as well. Dazza, Marty, I like your bale garden idea, and later putting a tree or plant there when you move the bales later. I'll message you later, man. I'm going to tell you now how to do it. You don't move the bale. The bale actually rots down, right? And as it's rotting down, you're welcome to message me, no problem. But I think I can let you know and the others know. So the bale doesn't move; it stays in place. And then you're growing into the garden, right? And as you're growing into the garden, into this bale, the bale is slowly decomposing and dropping down. You're putting more layers on top. You're planting on top. You don't pull any roots out, cutting your plants off, harvesting. Then you just put a bit more compost on top, plant again, and as it's going down, it's going down, it's going. The last place I was living at, that's where I put the papaya trees at the end, and man, I got thumping plants out of it, and just for months onward, it never stopped, because you're building up all this biology, you're getting all the worms in, you're getting all the critters in there, everything that creates a good soil. And then once it's down and sort of like, you've got about a couple inches thick of the bale left, dig a hole, right? Put a bit of compost into the hole and then just plant straight into it. And boom, man. Because what's happened is all the worms are already underneath, building that subsoil because they're coming up and feeding, right? And they're grabbing that material under the bale and bringing it back down. So they're coming up under the bale, grabbing a bit of that food, taking it back down into their hole and dropping castings down there and building the soil below the bale. You're not just only building soil above ground in the raised ground, you're building a full soil profile at the same time. So you just plant straight into that, my friend. So think about where you're building your Bale garden. Where I'm doing mine at the moment, I'm going to be growing papayas. So I'm building this garden that's going to produce a whole lot of food in that area. As they're breaking down, I'm going to be putting papaya in. I've bought some seed, which is supposed to be a dwarf species that they've bred. It's called an A1 pink tie or something. And I'm waiting for the seeds that come for them. And we're growing a dwarf red papaya up against, now I don't live in the tropics, I live in the subtropics, so I'm going to grow it up against the house where I get a lot of light reflecting back from the wall and heat reflecting back, build that subsoil up, and I'm pretty sure I'll get some pretty good papayas there. And then eventually that spot, it's going to be my veggie garden for now. It's going to be some fruit trees there near the end. So it's exciting stuff. And like I said, systemized so we can use it over and over and over again, not running around like mad chooks with our heads cut off, doing everything everywhere, and focusing on these one little areas, building them, and then moving to the next one and getting them right. Because too many things going on at once, you're going to burn out and you won't be as productive. So that's a really good tip to follow if you want to learn from advice of someone that's done that many times over. Dad's Amazing Adventures. Good morning, Marty. Great to hear about the new home. God bless you and your amazing daughter. Greetings from somewhere in Asia. All the best to you, my friend, and stay safe over there. Love Asia. Hoping to get back sometime too. Cool climate. Let's get this going. Well, hang on a second. Cool climate. I also moved 90% of my compost pile each year and planted a tree in the position it has moved from. Ground becomes very fertile. Awesome. This is what I'm talking about. So we're sort of like, we're composting and building in that one area, turning it into something, we're systemizing something and building soils at the same time. And as we're doing that, we're regenerating, like we were talking about before about regeneration. So we're regenerating the soil and building these things. To 18 Bs. Phew, I may get mate. I will keep going for a while yet. I just, usually go for an hour, but 18 Bs, love your work, mate. What you're doing. Love your channel as well. When I get time to pop over there and have a look, I'm just always amazed at those bees that you have going in those wild nests and what you discover around the outside. I highly recommend you check out his channel if you're into nature, man. They're getting heaps better to your videos, 18 Bs. So congratulations. And yeah, man. If you love it, so just keep on doing it, man. Really, really cool stuff. And I'm infatuated by bees, but I'm allergic to them, so I got to keep, I got to keep a bit of distance. One of my most favourite jobs I had in the whole world was beekeeping. When I was a very young man, I first moved to Byron Bay. Had to stop after 6 months. The swelling wouldn't go down from the stings, unfortunately. Because I wanted to become a beekeeper. So love the bees, 18 Bs, highly recommended, check it out. Now I'm not saying that just to give this guy a pump. He is blushing, but the content's getting good. Keep on rolling, bro, keep on rolling. It's very important we have people like you producing content like that. Yeah, we just need people like you, my friend. All right, more questions, feel free to fire away. I've got my glass of water here. Happy to help you save a bit of money, grow some food, connect with some people, make some good friends in here, find some new channels, and also just start enjoying life and just learn to be grateful and thankful and giving. Because as we're doing this, I recommend that you show others how to do it too, and then use the power of giving to give some away. And at the same time, if you've got a bit more than you need, maybe cover some costs and sell a little bit to cover some costs. That's what I do a lot of the time. give a bit away, cover some costs, sell a bit, even make a little bit of a profit sometimes. Sometimes nothing wrong with making a profit, right? Anyway, cheers to that. But yeah, really thankful and the power of giving. Deborah Jane Dixon. Wow, that's good. Hang on a second. I'm excited to see your new garden. Hang on. Sorry about that. I need to get this message up. I'm excited to see your new garden. Your new start has inspired me. Don't ever underestimate the positive impact you have on people. Well, thank you very much, Deborah Jane Dixon. I appreciate you. Lots of love to you, and thank you. I really do. It always humbles me when this happens, because it's just unreal. I'm a little bit speechless, but thank you very much, everyone that's provided a super chat so far to help this channel keep on going. It's pretty amazing, and yeah, amen to that. Thank you. Yeah, thank you so much. Right, so we're rolling here. We're on the mobile phone. I'm not having this no super production here. I know that people, when they come in and watch the sort of rerun, it's a little bit boring for them, because you know that it's not the sort of in the moment sort of thing. But sometimes I think I worry too much about production, and then I just want to get. Then I'm trying to not do that. I'm trying to get more the story out, and not so much the story, but the information to help. And that's really important to me at this current time. And I'll let you know on something else that's just happened recently, which is really, really cool. And I'm really quite, I don't know, I'm a little bit speechless on it again, because as I said, Marty's Garden channel's been going backwards ever since I started the worm farming stuff, right? And because I'm just super passionate about it and wanted to put it out there, and it was just it's been sort of tanking and not really sustainable. But a new direction in life and things like that have sort of changed things. And now we're looking at, using the worm farming and the sustainability to sort of go through and moving through. And so the production isn't really the main thing at the moment. I do like to produce good videos if I can, because it's really good fun and I learn a lot every time. But I want to sort of, keep inspiring and keep helping and keep moving people forward. And so that's why we just run these simple little live shows on here, and then people like this, provide super chats and stuff like that. It's absolutely amazing. And then we get other people sharing their advice and stuff. So it's when I pull out this little mobile phone, I'm like, oh, no one's going to want to watch it, and you start thinking all this negative stuff, and then you do this, and it's just like, it turns into something really cool. So let's have another comment here. Marty, I'm looking at planting my avocado trees in spring. I have a Wurtz, bacon and Hass. Any recommendations with planting? Now, avocados, if you've watched some of my content on here, I always talk about the soil is so important, and we want to have as much drainage and as raised up as possible. And I've got an avocado here, and it's in a bag at the moment. I don't know if I'll ever get it in the ground for a very long time, because it just doesn't have the drainage. So you've really got to have the drainage. In Australia, we have this thing called Phytophthora, which lives mostly in clay soils, and it's a type of nematode. It attacks the roots when the roots become sort of flooded and there's not as much oxygen. That's when Phytophthora breeds. And so if we get as much oxygen to the roots as possible, to when you mound a plant or you grow it on a hill, there's more oxygen going through and the water's getting away. So anything like that, just think about oxygen flow, good drainage, and your avos will just love you for it. So all the best with that. Think about keeping a central leader on your plant as well, and producing as best you can the pure, like a fruit that's shaped like that, so the light disperses right down the tree and over the tree. Instead of sort of making it sort of round sort of thing. Think about light, because photosynthesis will produce more fruit and stuff, and the light going around, the airflow going in. And also, you want to actually, with avos, it's a little bit different. You want to have the leaves almost touching the ground, and don't have the sun going in to around the root system, heating the root. You want to keep that root system cool and put a lot of compost in around and mulch and stuff, because they're a rainforest plant. So surface feeding is really important, and the surface roots are what takes most of the nutrient in. So just think about that at the same time. So hopefully that helps you, and I'm pretty sure that will, if you follow that method. Feed the soil, not the plants, and you'll be right. But a great question, and so thank you very much, Bendigo fruit trees. What type of soils do you have there, mate? That's going to be really important for what you're doing. But we always want to improve our soils all the time. So I think so we'll just check through and make sure I haven't missed anything here. My daughter's just got out of bed, and I heard her get up. She'll be having a shower soon. So she'll probably want to come into the kitchen and make some brekkie after that, I would say. But clay soils, unfortunately, yeah, we'll just work on them quite a lot, right? I'm the same sort of thing. So, and look at doing some research to see if any other trees nearby have ever suffered from Phytophthora. I know that it's right through Australian clay soils, as far as I know, but it might need a certain temperature for Phytophthora to be at its thing. So just cocoa coir is great to fluff up heavy clay. Yeah, helps a little bit of moisture as well, which is good in the drier times, but you're more inclined with clay to sort of hit it with like a dolomite to break it up. That creates more drainage and removes the clay particle, which binds it together, right? So that breaks it up and makes it more friable. And also adding sand, so river sand also helps as well. But you need to build it up quite a lot. So I just keep building. Sounds like you don't have those type of trees. I think the Wurtz is a semi-dwarf, and it gets a bigger root system. But yeah, just work on building them up. You could even, like, I know it looks a bit ugly, but you can get big car tires. You can paint them, right? And some people don't like this because they think they probably like maybe poison the soils a little bit. I'm not real sure how much lead and stuff and how much actually gets released, but you could use big truck tires and you could paint them white and sort of like build them up, and you could go up like a meter easy with something like that, with just 3 or 4 of them. Then put some rocks around the outside or something. So you've already got a meter of drainage. So that's, anything like that. It doesn't have to be truck tires, but think about something like that. So let's get this up here. This next comment. So you think a thick layer of dolomite in the bottom of the bed under the soil will help? I'll plant them in a bed at least 400 millimeters high. The dolomite needs to be put into this clay and then dug all through it. So you're like making it all sort of like disperse and touching as much of the clay as possible to get the best result. And so the next part of the comment. So I don't know why it does this sometimes. We'll get to this comment. I'll plant them in a bed at least 400 millimeters high. Okay, yeah, cool. Are you going to do any garlic? Where last frost is until a week, so I think I have to go about 6 weeks back from that. Then plant first time trying anyway. Hey, Billy. Billy, I've never grown garlic, to tell you the truth. I grow garlic chives a lot. Never grown garlic. And if you can hear a noise in the background there, that noise, that's my daughter having a shower. I didn't realise it was going to be so loud. What we might do is we might move to another space. Actually, let's go for a walk out into the yard. What do you reckon? Give me a thumbs up if you like that idea, and hopefully we don't lose connection with the internet. The noise coming through from the shower of my daughter having having a shower, I think it's a bit much, but we can go for a bit of a wander, and let's do that. Hopefully we're connected to the internet on the house, and
I think that's a pretty fun thing to do. What do you think? It's a beautiful day outside too. Like, it's just so nice. And so if we can connect to the internet, if we get cut off, we're just gonna have to say goodbye, right? Because we've gone over the hour anyway. But we can do this. Look at that. Oh, you gotta love the iPhone 12, right? It doesn't shake around and things like that. And first good phone I've ever bought. Generally, I don't go for the cheapo phones, but on this one. All right, so we're going to move down to the yard. I've got a video coming out where I've been talking about the garden, and so you can keep an eye on that. And the people that have stayed on and watching this, I don't think many people are going to be going through, unless they skip through to watch the rerun to see this. So I put this. Look, this is a little mini greenhouse. I just bought this yesterday. We're going to open this up. I paid $29 for it. Oh, it's getting really warm in there. This is great for raising the seedlings in the winter time, and they're cheap. They don't last long. You get a couple of years out of them. They blow over, so you got to be really careful with that. And we'll see how we go with answering the questions too while we're moving along. So here we've got some chicken feed coming up, and it's all starting to sprout. So $1.50 a kilo for that, and I've got the fresh greens. We've got here some purple sango radish. Down here we've got some arugula rocket, and then here we've got these little seeds here. Anyone can guess what that is? It's coriander. So that needs to be covered over a little bit more as well with some more vermiculite. Now the worm farm is over here. See if I can get this right here. So there's the worm farm. We've got some greens growing over here, and they're starting to grow really well. Pretty happy with those. Starting to do some little harvests on these, and yeah, we'll be making some little salads out of that. They're starting to grow really quick. And down here, if I can change that screen around, I will just have to go with what we've got, right? I'm not used to doing this stuff, but we've got some rocket down here, regular rocket, some red sorrel here, a little bit of cress, and at the back here, some flat leaf parsley. And so they're growing in trays down the bottom here, and our lettuces and things growing down here, and then our Bale Gardens over here. So let's go over to the Bale Gardens and have a look at those. I just planted them out yesterday, and this is what I was talking about before, about systemizing the way that you grow things. So what I've done is this bale, I've let it out in the rain for about a week and watered it down. I put some like chicken pellets and stuff into it, whatever I had laying around, any type of nutrient laying around. So it allowed that to soak in a bit, covered it with one bag of 25 litres of compost, and let that soak in a bit too for a bit longer in the rain. And then I've gone through and put one more bag, another 25 litres on top. I've planted peas at the back here, so I've got to put some spikes in there for the peas to grow up. Pretty sure I've got some lying around. And then some lettuce sort of at the front along there. Now these are all shallow rooted plants, so lettuces and strawberries are really good ones to start off with, and they don't need a big long root system. Down in here there's some like pellets and things like that. I put some blood and bone and different stuff through it, so as this is rotting down, this will become nutrient as well, and it will just lower down, and then I'll be putting the papaya trees in here eventually. Once they go down, I might even put the papaya trees in if I feel like the root mass won't get destroyed too much. Now we've got fruit trees in grow bags here, which is one of my favourite ways to start fruit trees. We've got the avocados, the shepherd there. We've got two different types of citrus growing there. One's a mandarin, and then I've got a Tahitian lime going as well. Here's our winter tomatoes growing here, and there's our little bird we're talking about, the little minor bird. He's hanging around getting the chicken food as it's coming out. So the winter tomatoes here in a black bag. At the moment it's not in the sun, so it's cold, but this one's a Tigerella. I think they're a UK. They're more of a cold weather tomato. Just want to make sure the tomato leaves aren't hitting the ground, get any disease. You can see like when the water pops up, they get that little bit of disease on here. Let's have a look at this little birdie here. See, there he is. He's hanging around the outside of the chicken coop, getting a bit of free feed. And the chickens are looking at me. You know, I love stuff like that. It really, yeah, I just thrive on it. And so we've got another type of cherry tomato here. This one here is, I think it's an orange cherry tomato. I can't remember the exact name. It's called orange cherry. You know, height to 70 centimeters. So not too tall. They're using indeterminates, so they just produce a lot of fruit quickly and die off. But I'll grab the seed and maybe some cuttings to keep them going on. And so we'll have a look at any questions that we've got here, and we'll get through. If we lose connection, yeah, we're going okay now. That is cool. It's morning over there and it's afternoon here. Yeah, it's a morning. It's still 9-ish. Do you still have the bigger greenhouse? No, I got rid of that. The ants were going mental in it, and I moved as well, so I just didn't want to take too much stuff with me. Let's have a look at our girls down here. Say hello to the camera, girls. We're going to give you some names. So the black one at the front, these ones are all named by, now they're all named by their character, right? They're not like old English names anymore. But the big black one, she is a feeding machine. That's Fatso, right? This one here that's curious, that's Flighty, because she flies off all the time and disturbs all the other chickens. Over there, there's a brown one. He's got a darker head. He's called Painful, because she's a real pain in the ass. That's the one comes sticking the head out there. And then the other one over there is called Brown One, because we couldn't figure out a name. Karen just kept on calling it the brown one. And this one here, looking at, that's Mathematics. Now, why would we call her Mathematics? It's really funny, because she's the smartest chicken in there, and she's always checking everything out. She's really interested in everything. She'd be looking at that phone right now, going, that's Mathematics. Say hello to the camera, Mathematics. Pose for the shot. So I put timbers all around the bottom. You can see around here, because we don't want any foxes digging around the outside. We've still got some holes in the fences and things, and we're trying to sort that out. Karen's got to come out and feed them with some of the grain. I gave them a bit of fresh food just before, some scraps and things like that. So yeah, this is the part of the garden at the moment, and it's looking not too bad really. We're just, you know, the sun's shining in here, right here. So we've got our microgreens, we've got our baby leaves, cherry tomatoes on the way, some peas coming on as well, some edible flowers, and the fruit trees growing into bags. So in the time when they're ready to go into the ground, they got nice big root systems, and I buy them cheaper because they're younger at the time. So Karen should be out of the bathroom now, so we'll head back around to inside the house. If you've got any questions about the backyard, we can cover those, and then we will sign out, my friends. Been an awesome morning so far. Made some good contacts with your crew down there, got some good answers, and hopefully we've inspired you to save some money and grow on and find different ways to do it efficiently, and yeah, get really good results. And like I said, these are things that I've trialed and done many times that I share with you, and they work. So I'm not selling you some dud idea that people are trying to get views from. This is the real deal. Now, it's a bit cold outside, so I just got a bit of a runny nose then. Okay, the neighbours have got a bit of a party thing going on, looks like. So, you know, we've still got some people here, 14 people watching. We've had 27 thumbs up. We've had some super chats, which has been really great. I'll just fix these legs up so we can get this back up here on the tripod, and we will then finish up. As I said, my daughter's out of the shower now. We had a bit of a look around the yards. The next video coming up, got a bit of a tour of the garden and talking about what's happening here in the space. I'm looking at becoming more
self-sufficient, turning a little bit of an income here from the backyard as well, and developing systems so I can turn this into and regenerate this whole space for more animals, insects, things like that, the worm farming systems. And yeah, it's going to take, look, we've got it's years in the making, right? What we've got planned here. And, you know, we've still got to put some, like, get permission to put some buildings up and different things. So just stoked to be here. And listen, what we normally do at the end is we say goodbye to everyone, like Alberto's just saying goodbye now. And thank you very much, Alberto, for coming and yeah, watching the show. And people, yeah, loving the names of the chickens. Do you still have the growing towers? Yeah, I do. We'll set them back up as soon as we're ready to go. And yeah, we'll get those going. They're still down the coast. They need to be brought back up very soon. Half of them are underneath the house, half of them are down the coast. So what we're going to do is just say goodbye to your friends down there in the chats and stuff like that. Say goodbye to me, you know, and we'll start moving out of the show. And I just don't like just going, oh yeah, click the button and we're bailing. It's just, I really appreciate your coming here. It's all about community and building something that the knowledge and sharing and passing on what I have and helping you guys along the way. So let's do that. I'll say goodbye. And if I miss you, it just means that I didn't see the comment on my phone. But thank you so much. Pinball Wizard, right, I'm off to bed. It's near 1 in the morning and it's the old dog needs his sleep. Enjoy your day, Marty, and have awesome, mate. Sleep well. Cheers, guys. Good to see you all. Have a great weekend, 18Bs. Thanks, Marty. Goodbye, all, from Deborah Jane Dixon. And I do appreciate you all for coming. Thanks, Marty, and the viewers. Have a great day. Bendigo fruit trees. Goodbye. Cool climate, tropical fruits. Thank you, Marty. Well, thank you, my friend. And thank you all for coming to watch the show. Have a top weekend. You too, mate. All the best to you. I will give you a quick cheers from my Coca-Cola cup. Have a great day, everyone. It's so good to see things looking up for you and Karen. I appreciate it, Billy. And all the best to you, mate. Blessings to you and the family. We are going to head off now. I'm going to go and do a few things around the house and get started for the rest of the day. Wow, been an awesome one. Have a great day. Happy gardening, worm farming and all that stuff. And we'll see you at the next video real soon. Got one coming out tomorrow. Bye for now.